Today I'm going to share with you my macOS terminal setup that I use for my coding projects and my videos. I get asked about it quite a lot, so I'm going to show you what it does and how you can set it up. By far, the most useful feature of this terminal is the autocomplete feature. It remembers commands that I've used in the past and suggests them as I type. This is really useful because it saves me time from having to look up commands that I don't use very often or commands that take really long to type. The syntax highlighting is also a nice touch, which makes it easier for me to read a command that has many different arguments. The prompt bar is this text that appears at the top before a command, and it also gives me a lot of useful information, such as what directory I'm in, what is the git status and branch of my project, what's my Python environment, and even what AWS profile and region I'm currently using. These are things that matter a lot to me when I'm working, so having it right there on the prompt bar saves me a lot of time. The terminal emulator program that I'm using is called Warp Terminal, and the best thing about it is that it actually lets me click and edit my commands like it was a text editor. This is really handy if I have a really long command like this one and I want to go and modify some part of it. Warp Terminal also creates these nice little execution containers for each of the commands that I run, and it will automatically time some commands for me as well so that when I run them, I know how long things take. And finally, I've configured it with this light green color theme that I really like and is quite easy on the eyes. If you want to set up your terminal like this, then there are three things you're going to need. Starship will give us the prompt bar that you see at the start of each command. So that's the thing that tells us which directory we're in and what programming environment that we're using. Fish is the terminal shell itself. So that would replace something like bash or z shell. And that's where I get the auto suggestions and autocomplete and syntax highlighting from. And Warp is the actual terminal app that gives us the nice editing experience. It also gives us container tabs and a bunch of other things that I actually haven't tried out yet. So let's start with the first piece, which is Starship Prompt. The prompt is the text that is displayed before each command. The prompt is this thing here. And you can use this with any shell or terminal. So if you don't want the rest of the setup and you just want the prompt, then Starship will be compatible with whatever terminal you want to use. To get started with Starship, just head over to the website, which is starship.rs, and scroll down and you'll find instructions on how to install it for various different platforms. Starship actually uses a lot of special symbols in the prompt, so like this icon here and this icon here. So for this to show up correctly, you actually have to install a font that has these special characters. You can get one of these fonts from nerdfonts.com. It has a bunch of these special fonts that has all the icons you need for your prompt to show up correctly. So just go to the site and choose one of the fonts that you like. The one I'm currently using is Roboto Mono. I think it's really easy to read, the characters are well designed, and it looks pretty nice. After you install it and set it up with the Nerd font, you need to follow one of these instructions to set up Starfish with your specific terminal. Now, eventually we're going to install Fish as well, so we're going to be using this command with the Fish terminal. So if you don't have that yet, then just skip this step for now and then come back later and do this. Otherwise, if you just want to use it for your existing terminal, you can follow the instructions for Bash or Z shell or PowerShell or whatever it is that you're using. Once you're done with that, you should have Starship Prompt available in your terminal with the default configuration that it comes with. So it should look something like this in the example. But if you want to edit it, then head over to this configuration page on the website where it explains how you can set it up. Basically, you just have to edit this config starship.toml file, and you kind of specify what icons you want to show up, what color they show up in, what order they show up in. So feel free to read this config page. It's quite a lot of stuff, but you can just click on different things that you care about. For example, if you use Python or any of these other technologies. My config is optimized for Python and AWS development, and it's available in the GitHub link for this project if you just want to copy that. Next on the list is the shell itself. For this, I'm using the Fish shell, which describes itself as a smart and user-friendly command line shell for Linux and Mac OS. Now, traditionally, I've always used Z shell because I like to use what most people are using, and that's usually a good policy for choosing a tool because you'll know that it'll have plenty of support and examples and documentation. But with Z shell, I find I have to customize and configure a lot of the things myself to make it have the functionality that I want. So I'm talking about things like the auto suggestion and the syntax highlighting. Whereas with Fish, I get most of that functionality right out of the box. To install Fish Shell, head over to the website at fishshell.com and scroll down a little bit where you'll find installation instructions for different platforms. So just choose the one that works for you. Now, the downside of Fish for me is that it uses a different scripting syntax from Bash, which is something that I'm more used to. So when I have to set environment variables or when I have to run a shell script, sometimes it doesn't work, or sometimes I have to make edits because the syntax is slightly different. However, it's not a huge problem, so I'm okay to live with it. And I just prefer the fact that it works out of the box. Now, rather than a bash RC or a zshell RC file, with Fish, you have this fish config file instead. So this is where you can put any kind of scripts or commands or environment variables that you want your shell to start with. And here I have that Starship Prompt initialization command that I talked about earlier. But if you have a bunch of aliases or other stuff, this is where it needs to go. The last tool in this setup is the Warp terminal. It's only available on macOS at the moment, and you can install it directly using the command line. And if that doesn't work, you can also go to the website, which is warp.dev, and download it directly. Warp is really nice because it gives me tabs and execution containers for my commands. The text prompt is also fixed at the bottom, which allows me to scroll up and down to see the results of previous commands that I've run, while still being able to see the command that I'm actually typing down below. But as I mentioned before, my favorite feature is that I can actually just go and edit different parts of the command as I'm typing them in the terminal, which is really useful because there's so many cases where I have to modify something in the middle of a command, but other terminals don't let me do that. I can only use the keyboard and I can't just click and edit something with my mouse. It just blows my mind that this isn't a default feature in all terminals, but this being available in Warp has already saved me a ton of time. I've also configured my own color theme for Warp, because I find that green looks really nice with this terminal. Warp uses a YAML file to specify the color theme. So if you want to use the same theme as me, just go ahead to the GitHub page and download this YAML file. Once you've downloaded the theme or the GitHub project, you can use this command to copy the theme into your Warp theme folder. It should then show up in Warp as a theme that you can select. If it doesn't show up right away, you might have to restart it first. If you don't want to use Warp Terminal for any reason, then I can also recommend iTerm2, which is the terminal emulator that I previously used. Starship and Fish will work with iTerm2 as well. So that's pretty much it for my terminal setup. Go to my GitHub repo in the comments if you want links and instructions on how to install it. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching.